Hey guys, welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. My name is Jessica. I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at JustinoTweets and at SheKnowsArsenal. Welcome to another episode of the Daily Download, going through Arsenal news, transfer news, and of course, we played a preseason game, so we're going to go ahead and do a quick review on that as well. So yeah, there's 60 of you guys in here, which is amazing. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. There's people in the comments. I was dying. I was reading them. You guys were talking about second team's got to go. Marie needs to go back to Serie A. Smith Rowe's got to eat. Remember, I said the other day, Smith Rowe needs to get on that Marquinhos diet. Like, we'll talk about him in just a second. A lot of talk about Jesus. We'll obviously spend some time talking about him. But just to kind of start off, like, I want to just say, like, I was watching that first half and probably thinking the same thing everybody else was thinking. Like, why are these people still here? You have the likes of, Pepe, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, Pablo Marie, Bellerin's captaining the side, Reece Nelson. And so the first half was just, I would say disappointing is probably an understatement because Nurnberg obviously, was very dominant in the first half. We couldn't create a single chance. The only chance that we had was the Emil Smith Rowe shot. And Tierney looked way off the pace, which is to be expected because I do think people forget that it wasn't just like any old injury. Like, he had to have surgery. This is his first time really like running and doing stuff and trying to play. So, but nevertheless, like, that first half was nightmarish. It really was. But, as much as I was cussing, the people that were out there, I did think it was like a massive overreaction online around. I saw people saying, "Oh my God, the season's going to be so long." You know, Look at, like, basically like acting as though those are the guys that are going to be playing. And there was no Saka, no Odegaard. Martinelli and Jesus had not gotten out there yet. Ramsdale wasn't playing. White, Tomiyasu, like, the list goes on. Gabriel, Partey, Xhaka, like, that really wasn't anywhere near our first team. And I know it's frustrating watching guys that you don't want to be there. Like, trust me, I was cussing them out. It is difficult watching people that you just want gone playing for Arsenal still, but that's how preseason kind of is. And so I do think there was a massive overreaction, especially seeing as soon as we had a couple of decent players out there, like, we were totally dominant and scored 5 goals. So I just think it goes to show that, like, we tend to be very trigger happy as a fan base. And sometimes we just have to use common sense. Those are not players that are going to be here. It's frustrating, but, this is just the first game in preseason. It was nowhere near as bad as last season where, like, I think we played a lot of some of our better players last summer, and we were still really kind of we weren't really in games. Like, we really were bad last preseason, but this time, as soon as we put on some good players, we started playing pretty well. So, yeah, I mean, the game was definitely a tale of two halves, but it's not like it was so unexpected, right? So those are kind of like my initial thoughts, that some people, I do feel like, were having to delete tweets very quickly or change their tune really quickly because it's kind of like, come on. Nick Nack says it took you 10 games in the league to even get going last season. Fair enough. Keenan says Jesus and Eddie don't play well together. We need Martinelli, Jesus, Saka to start up top, then our attack will flow well. I don't know if I really agree. I think Eddie and Jesus played well, together. Um, so it's just, I think, like, even in the first half, like, if we just start off with the first half, I think Arteta playing Ainsley Maitland-Niles and Emil Smith Rowe in midfield, they weren't playing like midfielders. Both of them were very close to the touchline, playing almost like wingers almost, So um, there was no central presence, and I also think that's just the way that we ended up playing because those two players are not central players. Um, So they didn't have any central presence. And so I think equally with Jesus and nketiah, that's probably not the front line that you want to see. I do, I think there is kind of like okay, nketiah has to be on the bench and Jesus needs to start through the middle. But I think that that was just a feature of how we were playing to try to get as many of our players out there playing in a position. Like, I think we're just trying to get fitness. I don't really think that's a formation that Arteta's looking to play. Early on in preseason, we'll play 4-4-2s and 3-5-2s and stuff just to get as many guys out there playing in a similar position at one time. So, but I don't necessarily agree that Eddie and Jesus didn't play well together. I think they connected pretty well, to be honest. So yeah, DJ Oni says Leno seems gone. Um, I hope so. We need to start selling, players as well. Um, yeah, so let's see what you guys are kind of saying. Matt Whitman says Jesus scored 2 and made 2 with this movement. So, yeah, let's just okay, so the first half, let's just start off with some of the players that were playing then. I think, let's not waste too much time on it, but Pepe, he's definitely you see the difference when you have Eddie and Martinelli and Jesus versus, Reece Nelson and Pepe. Those two guys are just not up to the standards. I do think that there was a sense of, well, like maybe let's give Reece Nelson a chance. That ship has definitely sailed. I think he's definitely somebody that's gonna go, should go. Pepe is definitely somebody that should go. I saw weird tweets about people feeling like he played well in that first half. I think he was basically anonymous and did pretty much nothing. So, it's just is what it is, In terms of Ainsley Maitland-Niles, he's just not a midfielder. Like, I think that that's clear. He's not an interior player. He's not somebody that's reliable on the ball. And in midfield, you have to be quicker than everybody. You have to be able to do things in less touches. You need to be more efficient. You need to be able to see pictures and, scan and know your surroundings. And I just don't get a sense of him being a midfielder. He's definitely I don't know what he is now. I do think he's just lost, and he lost himself. I don't think he can blame it on anybody but himself because he had a foothold, like he had a foot in the door of the England national team. He was playing well as a fullback and decided he was a midfielder, and he's just kind of lost from there. It'll be interesting to see what happens with him because Nottingham Forest, who was interested in him, have bought 2 wing backs to replace Dejed Spence, and there's been little to no interest in him since then. And I just look back at the time that we could have sold him to Wolves or whatever, and just think when it becomes obvious that we need to sell somebody, it's too late. And Ainsley's just somebody that, I just don't see who's going to be interested in him because his role is not defined. The position that most teams would probably want him to play, he's very like I know that he says in public he will play any position, but we know that he's had some reservations about being pigeonholed as a fullback. So, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with Ainsley, but hopefully somebody is interested in him because I don't think he needs to stay. I don't see if he's not going to play fullback, I don't see him having a role to play with us because I know that it's like, well, maybe he can play like a midfield role. One of my biggest takeaways from today was that overwhelming feeling again that midfield is light. We don't have midfield. We need to prioritize midfield. It's shocking, to not have any midfielders. And I get that, Partey and Xhaka and Odegaard were not available. But ultimately, if they're not available for us, those are the options that we're looking at, and that's not good enough, because ultimately, like, playing in 4 competitions, that's what you're gonna see. You're gonna see the likes of Ainsley Maitland-Niles and El Neni, who was fine today, and Emile Smith-Rowe trying to play midfield, and they're just not up to scratch. So, Ainsley doesn't really have a spot, so hopefully they can find somewhere for him to go. In terms of, Sambi, uh, I seen some harsh tweets on him as well, but he's just a very young and raw player, not quite physical enough to be considered a number 6. He needs to be probably moved into an 8 position, just so he can feel more comfortable, but I'm just sensing Sambi is still a little bit light, so there's definitely that. And, Bellerin, yeah, seeing him as the captain and starting was triggering for me. But, you know, Bellerin only wants to go to Real Betis, so we're in a position where even though there's other teams that are trying to offer us money for him, he is dead set on going to Betis, which is forcing our hand. Bellerin needs to pay his way out of his contract as far as I'm concerned. We don't owe him a free ride anywhere, or, a free cancel contract move anywhere. If people are willing to spend money on him, then he needs to match that to get out, to go to Betis. Um, I think it's annoying, to see him still here and him denying moves places because he wants to go to some place where they're not able to pay for him. So it's annoying. I don't anticipate Bellerin being here, but the longer it goes, the more likely I think him just canceling his contract becomes more of a reality. And I think that that's just not okay, considering the fact that there's money on the table for him. Um, I thought the rural waters looked good for a 17-year-old. I thought he held his own. He was playing next to the one of the worst center backs I've seen play for Arsenal in a long time, in Pablo Marie. So it wasn't like he had great backup next to him. I mean, he had Bellerin to his right, Marie to his left, and Sambi and Co in front of him. So it is what it is, but I thought he looked physically okay to play. He was okay on the ball. We didn't get to see much of him, but I thought he made a good account of himself. I thought he was the only bright spot of the first half. Marie was awful. He was woeful. He was like bordering on the Mustafi shambles type of like what's going on back there type shit. And it just amazes me to this day how anybody could have said that Pablo Marie was better than Gabriel. I remember those days. I remember those tweets. I remember those conversations, and they hurt me to this day. Marie is not up to the standard of anything, like it's wild that he ever played for us. He's rash. The tackle that he made, I've seen that tackle so many times. Um, so many times. Um, the clearances, it's just crazy. So, yeah, I think Marie is definitely somebody that needs to go. We know his agent is in talks with several clubs, but at the same time, we'll probably end up loaning him because he is on high wages. And that's the issue with Arsenal, is that we tether ourselves to these really bad players because they have very high wages, and the only teams that will take them don't have the capacity to take them on. So hopefully we're learning our lesson with that. But Marie, wow. Like, whoa, Marie. Yeah. In terms of Kieran Tierney, I would just say like he came back from a really bad injury. I don't know what you guys expected. I think some of the narrative around him, especially today coming out, people were ready to beat him over the head with a hammer because he came off, but it was clearly a planned sub. But so many people were acting like, oh my God, he got injured again. Look at again, again, again. It's because we are so ready to overreact as usual. it was a planned sub. He was only able to play 30 minutes. And guess what? If you had been out for what, 3, 4 months, had surgery on your knee, you probably couldn't run for more than 30 minutes either. I think this is just something that we don't have a good grasp on because we just are outside looking in. But it was a planned sub. He didn't get re injured. Coming back from long term injuries is not easy. And if you expected him to look just like the old KT, I think that's more of that's probably an expectation that you need to rethink. Um, I do understand that people are frustrated because we're afraid he's going to get injured and his injuries have cost us. But that can't be conflated with the reality of his injury and the expectations of when he should be 100%. I really just think that people wanted something to lose their head over today, and Kieran Tierney did not get injured. He just couldn't run for more than 30 minutes. He came back from a long-term injury. He needs to build up fitness. That doesn't mean that we don't need to get another left back. We 100% do. But people saying that they were disappointed with his play when there were 10 other players out there, 9 outfield players that couldn't kick a ball to each other, but they've been playing and haven't been injured is actually a joke. So, yeah, that's my take on the Kieran Tierney part. In terms of Matt Turner, he didn't look great, but equally, I also think there's an overreaction. I do get a sense that there's oh my god, he's American, of course he's gonna be shit, and as soon as he gives up a goal, he's crap. Um, you know, I don't think he was great for the first goal. I think, the second goal, it was like a guy wide open shot, Kieran Tierney was out of position, and so I don't know what you expected beyond that. But, I vouch for Matt Turner. I don't think he's a bad goalkeeper. He's a number 2. We'll barely see him. I've never seen a fan base so obsessed with backup goalkeepers and wanting them to be just as good as their first goalkeepers. That's not how it goes. And I am not keen on killing people before, you know, on preseason games. That's just not the reality. Like, people are rusty, I don't know, so, but I do get a sense of like, he's American, so I don't trust it, and that's fine. But like, Matt Turner is more than good enough to be a backup goalkeeper for Arsenal Football Club. All this stop Leno's transfer and all this kind of stuff again, we're just so dramatic about absolutely everything. So there you go. But in terms of like the other players and stuff like that, like he, you know, these are just guys that are not going to be playing for us. So, it is what it is. Let's see. Lynn says, I don't think there was much Matt could do because of the back line wasn't good, so they didn't help him. So, TV, the goalie did nothing wrong, you guys. This is just preseason. They did the same thing to Aquanco last summer. I remember he had some shaky moments, and it was like they forgot he was 19 or 18 or some shit like that. That's just what we do. We just are ready to just stick a fork in somebody, you know, especially when they don't fit what we feel like we should have. It just is what it is. We've become entitled and it's worrying. Merv's Adventure says KT will be fine. We just need to food backups from their injuries come because other players we have at the moment. No, I hear what you're saying. Tony said Turner's first save was amazing. The 2 goals were met, but I think he'll be fine. Lord Gunnar says this is nothing game though. Games like these are played just to get players up and running. Matt Dublin Gunnar says just nerves with Matt. I think out of body experience for him. For me, it's just I know people like literally I can sense it on the undertones. Like the undertones are also there with, Jesse Marsh. The undertones are there with Aronson and any American that's there. It's oh my gosh, he's American. He has to be crap. And Matt Turner's the number 1 for the US men's national team. And the US does do well with goalkeepers. I would give him a chance before we just like overreact on literally everything. And in terms of, oh, the core of Leno and Aaron being better and more reliable, well, of course it is. It's because it's two number one goalkeepers. And Leno is a very good goalkeeper, but he wants to be a number one. So the idea that we should just keep him, because it makes us feel better at night, that's just not how things go. I've never seen a team have two number one goalkeepers and it work out. How is that working out for PSG, the whole Donnarumma and Keylor Navas thing? How did that work out for Manchester United with Dean Henderson and David De Gea? It doesn't work. Your second goalkeeper is always going to be fucking average. That is football. Shit. Like, it's just not deep. Like, it really isn't. He didn't have a great game. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying also is that, like, I've never seen a club or a fan base obsessive over the backup goalkeeper, like to the point where it's like, I think some people never recovered from Martinez. They just, and then Leno, and then they went big on Ramsdale being bad. And then, it's just like a lot of, things. We don't need to worry about goalkeeper that fucking much. We have Aaron Ramsdale, who's very good. And then we have Matt Turner, who's a good goalkeeper and will be more than good enough to be a backup. We won't see him that much. Relax. It's just not that deep. Let's see. Chi Dozy says today's match shows we clearly need solid cover for Gabriel Magalhaes. Lynn says, Jess, that's the problem with some of our fans. They just think we should be signing two number one goalkeepers, but one sitting on the bench. It's just, to me, like, and I still think that people have an idea about Matt Turner being really, really poor because of where he's coming from, which I think is a total, like, you know, he can't be any good because he came from the MLS. Okay. Fine, fair enough. Saying he's not up to a certain standard when you probably have never watched him before, I can guarantee there's 360 of you guys in here. I would say maybe 2% of you guys max have actually watched him play significantly. Um, you know, so to say he's like not up to the standard when you haven't really seen him play that much is kind of like, it just doesn't make sense, you know. But let's move into also, like, it's just goalkeeper. Like, I don't like spending time talking about goalkeeper, right? But let's move on to the second half where things actually started getting fun. But there's 350 of you guys in here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. We scored 5 goals in the second half, which is not shocking because good players came in. Reece Nelson and Pepe were doing nothing, and Eddie Nketiah was getting no service, and we know Eddie needs service in order to be effective. But in the second half, it was so much better. I would say El Neni had a big part of that. El Neni was a huge part of that, which I also think was also like very similar to the league. um, Once you took Sambi out and put El Neni in, you had a little bit more authority. Is it, you know, what we need? No, but it was like a bare minimum to just at least have some sort of midfield presence. Midfield is a huge issue for Arsenal Football Club right now. It's not even a joke. Like, we need at least two midfielders. Of like a very high standard. So not backups, not squad players, like starter level. Our midfield options are just not up to snuff. But the difference in what we were able to do with El Neni and there versus Sambi is the same as it was last summer or at last season. I thought El Neni played really well in the time that he was out there. He obviously, had a really, really nice goal, which we know that he can do on his day. But the star of the show was Gabriel Jesus. I'm not surprised. We haven't had a elite level forward like that since Alexis. So we have been starved for a very long time. And this is why I'm very adamant about us bringing in another one, because look at the difference just with one elite level player in our team. It makes everybody look a lot better. Instantly, like nketiah looked much better. Martinelli had somebody to hit in the box. We looked so much better. Just one player. That's one elite player in our team. So I'm adamant about getting another one. We just have not our forward options have not been good for like 2, 3 seasons now, literally since Alexis left. And I know that's like, well, what about Aubameyang? I'm talking about like forwards that can run at people and push players or push teams back, put them under pressure, just you could just see the elite movement, like it's just crazy. And so I already see it. Like, what about Aubameyang? I'm talking about a forward. Aubameyang was a good poacher finisher. That's what he was. I'm talking about people that can actually put people under pressure. And that's what Gabriel Jesus does. We haven't had anybody like that since Alexis. Those are facts. Like, we're not talking about Aubameyang. We're talking about something completely different. And Jesus, just you could just tell like the levels are totally different between Gabriel Jesus and our next best attacker. I said it the moment that we were looking like we were going to bring him in, he walked straight into this team and he's the best player on our team. And people fought me over that. Well, what about Martinelli? What about Saka? They are a level below him. Sorry. So and we need another one, and we need midfield versions of that. There's levels to this game, but he was excellent. Now, this is just preseason. Like, these are just easy early games, but he made them look easy where our players were really struggling, before. And I just think that just shows like he had authority. He had authority in that game. Like, they immediately started backpedaling when he started dribbling towards them because they knew they were dealing with something different. His link-up play with Martinelli and nketiah I thought was very good. The first goal that he scored was obviously really, really good. I thought the goal that ended up being, I think an own goal off an nketiah shot, I thought he was really good for that as well. So I think he's just going to bring up the level of those players a lot. And I can't wait to see how him and Saka connect, him and Odegaard connect, him and Martinelli. Obviously, Martinelli put in a really nice ball for him for his second goal. And so he was just, you could just tell it was different. And that's what we need. Vieira, I'm interested to see what he can bring. Obviously, he didn't play, but you see what the difference is like when you bring in an elite player into your side. We have been starving, starving. So it's clear, I think it's clear. And I think he's looks like he's going to be a good signing for us because he looked like he fit in. It didn't feel like he was confused about what we were trying to do. And I thought the connection between the front players looked pretty good, so I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Craig said Gabriel Jesus has quality movement and he presses like mad. Agreed, Jess. Fans calling Saka and Martinelli on the same level is comical. And that's not to say like I think those players are bad. If you don't sit, like, I feel like sometimes your words get twisted and misrepresented because people are emotional. Saka and Martinelli are really good young players. They are on track to becoming something really, really special. They need better players around them. They need competition. And we need to be realistic about where they are in their process. I think we're too quick to want to put them up there with everybody else. And I'm really glad that we can see what an elite level forward looks like. That's the level that they need to get to. They can get there though. And it's just great. Like, it's just great to see. Joshua says he even made Nelson look good. I mean, he didn't everybody look a lot better when he was out there? I mean, that's what good players do. And I don't think we've had a player like that in a while where they just make everybody else around them look better. We need 3 more of those before the window closes. Let's see. Matthew says Jesus is world-class footballer. He makes his teammates better. Amir says, "We couldn't even score 1 goal last season when we were 0-0, yet Jesus comes in and 2-0 down, and he scores 2 goals, 3 in my eyes. That's what cost us UCL." I mean, he has that factor, like that sparkle, he's somebody that just, like, jumps out, and you instantly saw the defenders from Nuremberg just kind of start backpedaling because they knew they were dealing with something different than what they were looking at before, which was Nicola Pepe, So, yeah, I think you just see the levels and, you know, I think Saka will instantly look better with somebody like Jesus running into the box because Jesus was able to press, win the ball back, pass it off to somebody else and get into the box, and I think Saka and Martinelli have lacked having, somebody there to tap the ball in and make decent runs because Lacazette would just stand in the box. So yeah, let's see. Um, 3 more world-class players is a stretch. We need 3 really good players to come in before the end of the window. They don't necessarily have to be world class, like, they just need to be on a different level than what we have, and so I would say if you brought in, like, Tielemans and a couple more players, of that level, somewhere in between the Jesus and the Tielemans spectrum, you'll do it. Not necessarily all world class, though. I get that that would be difficult. DJ Oni says, who else noticed how Jesus, Marquinhos, and Balogun were ready to press and how the shape of their bodies were when the opposition keeper wanted to take goal kicks? Yeah, instantly, like we had, first of all, like, isn't it nice just to have forward players that can run, can move, can press? We just haven't had that in a very long time. And you could just Marquinhos was a very good presser today. I thought he I thought he looked like he fit in, um, more than, like, the 18-year-olds, which makes sense because they've never played men's football before, but in terms of what he was doing off the ball and stuff, he looked like he knew what he was doing. Balogun looked sharp. He was making runs. The pressing was good, and so I do think that we've really lacked that over the last couple of years, but the pressing was excellent, but that's just it wasn't excellent. It was just really, really good. It was existent. It was there. It was available to see. Abazet did not press. So yeah, it was nice. It was very nice. So just in terms of like the Marquinhos thing, um, let's talk about Marquinhos and Patino. Marquinhos, I wanna see more dribbles. I didn't see a lot of dribbling, but what I did see is he took care of the ball and he wasn't sloppy. Um, he would find the man, he would keep the ball when he needed to. He tried to, cross that one ball right in front of the goalkeeper to Gabriel Jesus, which I thought was really good. Um, and he pressed well. He just needed, I think, more time to get into the game. And he also, when he started to get going, then we brought in, some younger players and stuff, and then we kind of lost a little bit of our momentum. So I want to see more of Marquinhos, but he looks like a first team player to me. He looks like somebody who could be unlocked, at some point during the season. But I want to see more dribbles, but I liked what I saw. He didn't look lost. Like I didn't feel like he was going to get exposed out there. So I liked him, but I want to see more. Patino was good on the ball. But for Nuremberg's third goal, the way he kinda dove in on the press, like we were kinda saying, like Marquinhos, Jesus, and nketiah, when they're pressing, the way that they shape their body and the way that they kinda know what the press is supposed to look like, they don't get easily bypassed the way that Patino did, and then Patino could not catch up for the life of him. On the ball, Patino is really, really good, and he did good today. I thought he showed more than Salah did, but physically, he's not there yet. I don't think he's ready. Um, he's not there yet. But I thought he looked better on the ball today than he did against Nottingham Forest. So thought he did really well, to be honest. So yeah, I think I liked what I saw today. I liked what I saw today, in terms of the second half, and I don't even have a thought on the first half, really, because I think most of those players won't even be here, so it doesn't make any sense to be, like, really evaluating them. They're deadwood for a reason. Um, and I guess the last thing I'll say is that Emile Smith Rowe does still need to eat. He's still light, and he did the thing where he had one really good shot, but I thought he was pretty anonymous. And Martinelli, when he came on, which, I mean, to be fair, he played with the better players, but I still think it's Martinelli's spot to lose up there on the left. I didn't see anything from Emile Smith Rowe that made me feel differently. So, yeah. Um, Maxwell says, Jess, loving Arsenal. Of course I am. You know me. Billy says, Patino will improve with Europa League minutes. Um, Tony says, Marquinhos was better than feared, but not Nelly level debut. Need to see more before we keep our loan. Fair enough. It just depends on, I think, also who else we bring in. Blaze says ESR was poor. I hope the next game he will play better. Saksham says, look at Gavi. He's small but strong, aggressive players do not need strength. I think you need a certain level of physical strength. But I kind of hear what you're saying. I kind of hear what you're saying. You don't need to be like big or anything like that. I get it. Tony says, I think Patino needs a full season loan, full season playing with grown men. Do you think Patino is somebody that's going to get a loan, though? I feel like he seems like the type that will be eased into the first team, like a Jack, or not like a Jack, because I think he went on loans. Um, Maybe kind of like a Cesc type. Like, I think he's going to be the type that gets eased in to the first team. I don't think he'll ever go on a loan. I have this weird feeling about him because I just don't see him on a loan for some reason. I think he'll play Europa League games, and as he fills out, he'll play more. I don't know if, yeah, I don't think he's quite ready, but we'll see. But he was good on the ball. Let's see. Venetius says, what are your thoughts on Paqueta? We'll get there in just a second. Just want to wrap this up. Um, um, and when I say, I think you can be small in stature, like you can be a short player, but you need some weight to you, or else these men are just going to slap you around. And in particular, I think in midfield, um, of course, if you're excellent technically, that can ease some of the pressure of having to be as physical. But I do think there's like a minimum level of physical strength that you need to have, especially if you want to play in the center of midfield. And I don't think Patino is quite there yet. I think Sambi and Emile Smith Rowe are also displaying somewhat of a lightweightness, if that's a way to say it, where they can't be trusted in the interior of midfield. Emile Smith Rowe on the wing all day, I'm fine with it. But as he gets more in midfield and in smaller spaces where you need to be either so technical that they can't touch you, or you need to be able to get hit like a little bit and shake off those challenges, he's not quite there. So I don't think you need to be a big player. I think you need to have your man body, if that makes sense. And I just don't think Sambi or Emile Smith Rowe are quite there yet. They look young, they feel young. And I think Patino is in that category. So they need a little bit more time, I think. It's not really about height, really. So yeah. Now, moving on, let's talk about some other stuff. There's 400 of you guys in here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Want to go ahead and get you guys some transfer news as well, since we didn't do that earlier. Let's wrap up the Lisandro Martinez and Rafinha updates really quick. So Lisandro Martinez, like obviously the news broke yesterday, coming from Argentinian publication. Argentinian journalists were saying that he chose Manchester United, and quickly after, Manchester United put in a 50 million euro bid in for him. There's no Arsenal haven't put in anything else. Um, and we were linked with Grimaldo like maybe 2 days ago. So I do think that this one is all but dead. I know that there's some stuff out there that Ajax are still going to push for more cash, but I feel like that might just us being involved was giving them the opportunity to push up the price a little bit more. And if we're not involved, I can see them selling him for the 50 million euros. I am a little bit disappointed that this one didn't go our way because I do think he would solve some of our issues, but equally, he's not somebody that I was dying for before the window opened. So I'm not going to like lose sleep over it. But as we already spoke about, we need backup probably for Gabriel and Tierney, and we need midfield reinforcements. So Adu has a lot of work on his hands, but 50 million for this player. Um, if we were willing to spend 38 million, which I think is the last bid that we put in, then there's money there to reinvest in other places. Grimaldo supposedly is only going to cost about 6 million pounds. So that still leaves more money to do the right thing. And so they may need to break it up into like a couple of different players because there isn't any other player out there that can play midfield, left back, and center back. But they need to figure it out. But I think that one is all but dead. And honestly, it felt dead the moment that Manchester United became more interested in him. Never got the feeling that we were going to beat them out for him, unless they were less serious than we were. On Rafinha, it looks like he's going to Barcelona, but also I just read something about them getting close to. Sorry, my dog is losing her mind. I saw something about Barcelona still being in talks with Dembele and that being close. So I wonder if Barcelona do go for Dembele instead, because I don't think they really have the money for Rafinha. I think Barcelona feel like they're hoarding a lot of players without having the ability to register them or purchase them. Lewandowski, that I'm not sure what's going on with that. Koundé, not sure what's going on with that. And Rafinha, it doesn't seem like it feels like they're offering money without actually having it, or not having the ability to put a lot up front, things like that. So they're hoarding a lot of players, and Dembele might be a domino. If they go for Dembele, which would be probably a cheaper option for them because Rafinha is going to cost 55 million, 60 million, or something like that, then maybe Rafinha does end up going to Chelsea. So I don't see us being involved anymore in that. But it's really interesting how with the Lisandro Martinez and Rafinha situations that were so public and so noisy, that all of a sudden there's nothing. It's very closed. It's very, hush hush, like Fabrizio Romano saying, "Oh, I need to get the right name for the right wing alternative to Rafinha." Basically, that means he doesn't know shit. Um, the secret midfield option, nobody knows anything. And I think it's in Arsenal's best interest to keep things a little bit more quiet. I would stop briefing, if they were briefing Ornstein and other journalists, I would just stop that because it's not going in our favor. So um everything is kind of undercover at the moment. But Lisandro Martinez and Rafinha, I wouldn't expect either of them to be playing for Arsenal next season. So, there you go. But they both might be in the Premier League. So we just have to hold that. See what you guys are saying. Um, Nick Nack says Surprise City is selling all these players to top 5 teams though. That just shows how unfazed they are by the rest of us. They're like, they don't care. Orpheus Jones says Dembele's new contract pretty much confirmed. Rafinha will move to Chelsea. Yeah, so yeah. I mean, Chelsea, they had the money, and Arsenal, I don't know if they have the money. They would have to pay Leeds a lot up front. Um, and I don't know, Arsenal don't do that. We love installments, which is normal. Um, that's normal. Like, I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying that, like, in order to get that done, you would have to, because Leeds want to spend this summer and they are spending. So, but yeah, it is what it is. I wouldn't expect either one of those players to be playing for Arsenal next summer, um, or next season. There's 430 of you guys in here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's talk about Paqueta. A report came out today. Let me just pull it up so I can make sure I give you guys the exact wording that came from this. All that Rafinha's probably crying. Shit. According to our information, Arsenal are pressing hard for Lucas Paqueta. Arsenal wants to speak with the player to feel out the situation first, and that's coming from MediaFoot OM. Let me see if I can get a little bit more for you guys on this. Give me 1 second. Just pulling it up. Sorry. So yeah, that was the first little report, or the little beginning of the report. And then there was more basically saying that Arsenal are like really Arsenal are falling for Lucas Paqueta from Olympic Lyonnais. Mikel Arteta will have direct involvement on this to convince him of the project. Reportedly, Arsenal will make an approach soon. So, yeah, you guys don't really need to ask me how I feel about Lucas Paqueta, do you? I'd bite your hand off. I love him. So, yeah. I love him. Uh, I think, you know, he's an interesting player because he's not really like Rafinha. He's a midfielder that can play everywhere, like most um, Lyon midfielders. I think they go for like players that can play in a lot of different positions, and like Awar can play in a lot of different positions, so can Bruno Guimaraes. um all their players are pretty versatile in that way, and Lucas Paqueta is no different. I see him more as a 8-10. But he can play on right wing, he can play false nine, he can play left wing, he can play most positions. What I do like about him is he's not left-footed, he's right-footed, and I think we have too many left-footed players in our team at the moment. There's no balance. So he's a right-footed player, but he's very skillful. He's a modern midfield player, which I don't think we have. Like, he can run, he can beat a man, he can pass, he can shoot, he can do all these things. And so he's 24 years old. He's right in that prime age, and I do like him a lot. I do think, like, I look at him and I think, so he's not quite the one-on-one dual monster that Rafinha is, which I really like about Rafinha. Um, but he's somebody that I wouldn't turn down, because you could play him, as an 8/10. You could play him through the middle. So, like, if you wanted to play Gabriel Jesus on the right, who is more of a 1v1 type of player, you could do that and play Martinelli on the left and Paqueta through the middle. There's different things that you could do. He could fill multiple roles, kind of like Vieira. Um, and I'm not gonna lie, like, I'm Vieira and Paqueta as your midfield eights is drool worthy. But we have to wait and see if these things firm up a little bit more. I'm not surprised that we would be interested in him. We've been interested in him for a while. The link is obvious. It's a do. Arteta needing to convince him makes sense to me, because multiple teams have contacted him. Um, I know Manchester City contacted him, Tottenham did as well, and one other club. And we know that Newcastle are interested. And I do imagine that he would be maybe interested in being with his best friend. at Newcastle. Him and Bruno Guimaraes are very close. So I don't think that that's a reason to choose a club, but it could be a factor. So we'll see. But I think it would cost somewhere around 50 million. We know Lyon is not easy to deal with. They seem easy to deal with for anybody, but when we were trying to get a war, they were absolute nightmare. So we'll see how that goes. But in terms of a player and a profile and the skill and the age profile, everything makes sense for this one. But, I'm not going to hold my breath, you know? Let's see. Lay Down the Law says we should go for Paqueta and milinkovic savic and call it a day. Keenan says Paqueta, SMS, and Tielemans would do a job for us. We just need to get one through the door soon. Saksham says we are underrating Savic. He's a world-class baller. Billy says only a few clubs can afford players up front, and nowadays you can't do that all with FFP. No, I understand that we all pay in installments. I'm not saying that like Arsenal are bad for paying in installments. I'm just saying we are we don't really like to put a lot up front to get the player. And I do think sometimes you have to push the boat out, but I think that that speaks to what our budgetary restrictions are more than anything. Um, so yeah. Keenan says Jesus is gonna bang 20 goals in the Prem for us, been saying that since last year. So yeah, I think this is a player that of course I would like. I would imagine that, because he doesn't really play deep in midfield. He could, but that's not really, like I said, he's more of an 8-10. So I don't know where that leaves the Yuri Tielemans signing, but I also think because Granit Xhaka is still there, they would lean more towards getting Paqueta, and sticking with Xhaka, which is not what I would want to do. In terms of the Milinkovic Savic stuff, um, DiMarzio, who's pretty reliable in terms of, especially when it comes to Italian transfers, who's saying that they want 75 euro for Milinkovic Savic, which is like 65 million pounds or something like that. And he basically said that he doesn't think he will come to Arsenal because the fee is so high and there's no clubs that are willing to pay that much for Milinkovic Savic. So he would imagine that he would stay at Lazio. So I think Milinkovic Savic, when you look at him, you look at him on those compilations, I think he is a slick player. He would instantly make us better, and I wouldn't say no to him or anything like that. But 65 million for one player, especially one that's 27, I do think puts us in a position where we wouldn't be able to get something else, I would imagine. So, yeah. But, it just depends on what the club is doing, and those links just have not really firmed up. But DiMarzio speaking about it, I do think that, he didn't say that he didn't think Arsenal were interested. He said that he didn't think that he would sign for Arsenal because we wouldn't spend the money. So we'd have to put the money down. So we'll see. Um, Let's see. Saksham says he's a top player. 65 million is a good deal. She knows football. Thank you so much for your super chat. Says, I'm not gonna lie. I am the truth sets free. I left YouTube when you went on vacation. It canceled you by mistake again. I've tried to leave social media twice, but getting guilty because you're my favorite analyst. Damn you, Jess. Thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for that. Don't leave social media. No reason to leave. We're having a good time. No worries. Craig says Milinkovic Savic, yes, please. His contract is running down. Just why we are interested. Yeah, so we'll see what happens with that. But I do think that Paqueta feels more like an avenue that we would go down. But Milinkovic Savic just doesn't feel like something that we would do. So I don't know. We have to see. Nick Knack says 50 million is what 60 million euros, still a lot of cash. It is. They're both so I'm not saying that the 50 million for Paquetá is not a lot. It is a lot. but he can also play multiple positions. So, when I look at that, I'm like, more bang for my buck. If something were to happen to Gabriel Jesus, we could pop him up top as well. So, there's just, I feel like you get more bang for your buck. That's just me. So we'll see what happens with that. And last but not least, I did want to touch on this Bennacer bid that, some innocuous Italian outlet put out there. I will read it to you guys. Obviously, Ishmael Bennacer was a part of um, our academy, and we let him go. So, I know a lot of people don't like rebuying players, that have left, unless it's Narbry. That's always a difference. People want Narbry back, but um, with Benacer, um, there's like this anonymous kind of. It wasn't really anonymous. Let me stop saying that. What I will say is it was coming from like C Mercado Web. We've seen these kind of things before where they don't really materialize, but they say we put in bids. Um, Arsenal have reportedly made a 40 million pound or 40 million euro bid for former gunner Ishmael Benacer. And like the full report was kind of like, um, it might be enough to tempt AC Milan, blah, 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 blah. So let's just talk about the player. I mean, he's really good. And I mean, I think it was, maybe I'll pull it up for you guys really quick. Scott did his radar, and of course, it looked really, really good, which makes me think that will get him less and less and less. Um, let's see if I can find it and pull it up for you guys. Of course, I will, because I love y'all. Let's see. Here it is. So this is his radar, or his crab cake, as Scott calls it. So um, he's 24. He is out as at AC Milan, who obviously they just won the Scudetto. Um, I mean, I think he is similar to Douglas Luiz, but better. That makes sense. I think he's that type of player. Um, So ball recoveries are in the 99th percentile. So, it's really good. 84th percentile for tackles. Um, Pressure regains, 93rd percentile. Dribbles completed is actually pretty high, 92nd percentile. Progressive carries are in the 80th percentile. Passes into the final third and 90th percentile. Progressive passes in the 82nd percentile, which is really, really good for somebody who's considered a more defensive midfielder. Pass efficiency is really good as well. So he's just, what I like about him is that even though he's defensively sound, he has something about him on the ball, which, if you want to read something into this rumor, what you could say is that he would fit Mikel Arteta's requirements, which we've never been linked to a central defensive midfielder that couldn't play on the ball. We've never been linked to an Ndidi, a Sissoko, a Basuma. We have never been linked to these types of like more traditional win the ball and give it to somebody else types. It's mostly been the Nevises and like these types. And so Benacer does have the grit and the tackling and the ball, regaining the ball and that kind of stuff. But what he also has is some ability on the ball to get us up the pitch. And so, if you were to read into this rumor at all, that's what I get from it, is that he would fit in terms of what we would need. So, yeah, like 40 million, which euros is 34 million pounds, which isn't like, wouldn't be devastating. I do think this is a position that we need to address. Um, so yeah, that would be something that I would look at. Keenan says, "Don't bring him back, please." Mikey says, "Why would Milan sell him? Though I'm open to reasons why." I don't know. I mean, they're trying to buy quite a few players. They may need to sell somebody. I know Kessié left, but didn't they bring in, or they're going to bring in Renato Sanchez maybe? So, we'll see. Lewis Christie says he failed at Arsenal once. Why buy him from Milan? Besides, we have an attacking technical midfielders already, but he's not an attacking midfielder. He's more of a DM. And if you use that same logic, then why would you bring back Serge Gnabry? Yunus Musa, somebody who we let go out of our academy, is doing really well. People like success is not linear, and like players, they peak and they progress at different rates. So I just don't know if I'm really bought in on the idea that he failed, so you shouldn't go back in for him. He's a completely different player now than he was when he left Arsenal. So I think failed at Arsenal is a little bit of a stretch considering he was in our academy. And I think for Arsenal fans, we have this idea that if you don't make it in our academy, you're definitely going to fail. And I just think players, they peak and they get better at different speeds. Like it's not linear, but I hear it. Billy says he wasn't a regular player for Milan, but they lost Kessié. Bennacer is very good as a deep lying playmaker role. I don't really care if he's a regular or not. Do you know what I mean? Like Gabriel Jesus wasn't a regular either. That's not ever really my concern. That doesn't mean that he couldn't be good for us. You know what I mean? Keenan says he is exactly like Douglas Luiz. I watched him a bit. I am not sold that he would translate to the Prem. He is a bit short and tends to move in a circle. Okay. So yeah. Lynn says, Jess, I think we are after Bennacer as there are problems at the club, which broke today. Fair. Billy says, they also have Bakayoko sign Adley, and they still want to sign Renato. So that's what I'm saying. He may be somebody that they're willing to part with. So yeah, there you go. Billy says Bennacer is still very good. Milan will sell him if they get good money. He wasn't a first team player last season. They clearly want somebody in midfield. Yeah. So Ben says saying Bennacer shouldn't come back is like saying don't try getting Serge. I mean, that's exactly what I said. SheKnowsFootball says I was changing names because people were negative or trolling from other communities, etc. So if someone just told me about the block button on the right months ago, I could have avoided all of that. Yeah, use that block button, SheKnowsFootball. Use it. Mr. Smith said I would bring in Onana and Fofana. I think Fofana said that he wants to stay in France, so I don't think that that's really an option. And that Onana kid, like, I have to say, I'm not sure that he would have much more influence than Zambi. I think he's 19 or 20, and I think we need players that have a lot more experience, at the top level, and not repeat the same things that we've done in the past, which is get young players and expect them to step up when they're not ready. So yeah, that's really it for that. I would say I'm taking both of those rumors with a huge pinch of salt because Arsenal are clearly keeping things on the low, clearly. So yeah, I would keep it on the low, like right now. So, or keep it, keep it light. That's what I mean. Keep it light. Like I wouldn't get too wrapped up in it. And I think we also, because I got like excited about the Rafinha stuff and the Lisandro Martinez stuff, I'm a little bit leery about getting excited about anything now. But I am hopeful that we will sign somebody within the next 2 weeks or so. I would love to see another signing before we go to um America. Like that would be ideal, but I'm not sure that's going to happen. But the next 2 weeks I think are pivotal. I think you want to get people in as soon as possible, but to me it's a good day. We won our preseason game and Gabriel Jesus was fucking brilliant. So it's a good day, but there's 330 of you guys in here. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. I will be well, we'll play it by ear, on the weekends, it's a little bit touch and go. I usually come at least for one day, either Saturday or Sunday. On Sunday night, though, I'll be on the latte firm with FK and Kaya. So make sure you at least turn in for that. So you'll at least I'll at least be somewhere, but we'll keep it light. I may come on tomorrow, I may not, but I'll do something. I know I will. Just make sure you have your notifications on. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye, y'all.